Okay, let's talk about thinking on a continuum. Thinking on a continuum is it's a concept of, say you're trying to change something or you're trying to accomplish something. A lot of people only think about where they're at and where they want to be, and they never think about all the stuff in between. So it's much easier to make a change very gradually than it is to say, well, I'm going to try and change everything overnight and I'm just going to try and make my life fit around that. So one example is, say somebody's trying to eat better, you're trying to improve your diet. Say your typical breakfast is dropping by Starbucks, getting like a caramel mocha latte. I really don't go to Starbucks, so I don't know what drinks they have, but just imagine some basically chocolate milk with whipped cream and a cherry on top, and they get like a blueberry muffin or even a chocolate chip cookie or something, and that's their typical breakfast because they're in a rush, they're just trying to get to work, they overslept, whatever, and the stuff tastes good. So they're like, all right, this is what I've been having for breakfast basically for the last year. Oh, but I'm supposed to eat better. Well, I guess I should wake up early and have like egg whites and make oatmeal. And guess what? That almost never happens because the person's still in a rush in the morning. They're probably not going to sacrifice another hour of sleep so they can wake up and make this super healthy, ideal breakfast. So instead of saying, well, you're trying to go from Starbucks chocolate milk and a brownie to egg whites and some fruit, there's a lot of space in between. So since it's not very likely that you're just going to jump from here to here, then why don't you work a little bit closer to where you're at right now? So you're still going to go to Starbucks, but maybe instead of getting that 2,000 calorie coffee, you just get black coffee with a little bit of cream and maybe something else to sweeten it. And instead of that muffin, you just get like a cup of fresh fruit. Now that's actually a vast improvement as far as saving calories and not taking a whole bunch of extra sugar and junk in your body, but you're still kind of going in the same pattern, and it doesn't feel like such an impossible leap as waking up an hour early and making this healthy ideal breakfast. That sounds a little bit more manageable, right? So that is what's called thinking on a continuum. So instead of going from let's rank your breakfast, say that Starbucks chocolate caramel latte with whipped cream and the blueberry muffin is like a 1 on a 10 scale, and that egg whites with oatmeal is a 10. Instead of going from 1 to 10, just go from 1 to 2. You're getting a little closer to that 10 and you're getting a little further from that 1. That's really what matters. And then over time, say you do that for a week or two, you've been getting that breakfast, you could say, hey, maybe I'll actually have like my normal coffee with no cream, just a little sweetener, and instead of like fruit, I'm gonna get maybe one of their egg muffins. I think I've seen. I forget what they're called, but they actually are good. I've had that at Starbucks. That's actually an even better improvement. You're getting a little bit higher up the scale. You're getting a little closer to 10. So now instead of a 2, maybe you're like at a 4. And it doesn't feel like such a huge change, and there's not as much resistance to it because you're still able to kind of manage this with your normal daily routine, your normal schedule, but you're gradually getting better. And truth be told, this has really been proven to be the most effective way of making a change in your life or trying to improve something. The opposite of thinking on a continuum is what many of us fall into, which is the all or nothing mindset. Well, either I'm going to eat perfectly well all the time, or if I have one bad meal, screw it, I'm just going to go back to having cake for dinner. That's a very common jumping on the wagon, hopping off the wagon. We all fall into this mindset because it's the easiest thing to do. In the beginning of a change program, we're super motivated and we're really anxious and ready to do some big change because we're looking to the future of how we want to be and what that change is going to result in. So we may do really well for a couple of days, but life happens, you're not able to maintain that, so you just flip right back into your old habits, and that obviously gets you back to square one. You really haven't made any progress. You've just gone up and then back down. And so this never-ending revolving door is what usually happens with this all or nothing mindset. So the counter to that is thinking on a continuum. Make gradual little improvements day by day, thinking long-term and not thinking, I got to go from here to there, forgetting there's a lot of steps in between. So take those little steps. They may seem like baby steps, but promise you, it's the easiest, best way to sustain change over the long term. And people that are very successful in either, changing their body or even building a business or, whatever goal you may have, this is really how it's always accomplished. You don't hear as many people talk about it because it's not as exciting to talk about, hey, I've actually improved my diet 10%, every week for the last 3 months, and I made a huge change. It's much more fun to talk about, wow, I'm on this hardcore workout program, I'm on this really strict diet, because that sounds cooler. But the people that actually have the long-term success and stick with it are the ones that follow this slower thinking on a continuum approach. So I challenge you to, pick something in your life that you're trying to improve and say, instead of trying to get to the end as fast as possible, think about where you're at and how you can just make a little bit of it, like a tiny improvement that maybe almost doesn't feel like an improvement. Just make a tiny improvement and then do that every day consistently. And then keep making those little baby improvements. And over time, you'll be to where you're at and where you want to be. And it's going to feel like a much easier path. So that's all I got for this one. I will see you in the next video.